Hi everybody, thanks for coming along today. I hope you've had a really good day so far. It's serverless days, and thanks for coming along. So today we're going to talk about let Power Automate sweat the small stuff. I'll go into a bit of an agenda, but first let me introduce myself. So my name is Amey Holden. I am a Power Platform CX specialist. So what does that mean? Customer experience. I'm also a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, and I like to call myself an ABC consultant. So what does that mean? Anything but code. I've got nothing against people that write code. I love people that do. Personally, you're not going to get me to do it. So when I was asked to present here, I didn't realize that I use a lot of serverless computing. And I use something called Power Automate, which people might know about. And it's incredibly serverless. So I wanted to share with you some things I know about it to inspire you on your serverless journeys and experiences. So today, what we're going to talk about, a bit of a Power Automate 101, but also in the context of what it means for serverless. We're going to look at some instant power with pre-built connectors, and then we're going to look at how we can power up, Power Automate more, power, with custom connectors. So without further ado, let's jump into our Power Automate 101. It's made up of three things: connectors, triggers, actions. Power Automate is serverless because of these things. So let's look at connectors. There's over 300 pre-built connectors available, and connectors are all about embracing third-party services, which is a massively important thing when we're talking about serverless computing. Connectors allow you to connect to third-party services, which I kind of already said. We've got triggers. What's a trigger? A trigger, as it said, is an event that starts a flow. So if we've got an automated flow, this is something that will start a flow. So what's serverless about that? It's a push-based event-based driven pipeline, and it allows you to build thicker front ends and let the magic happen in the back end. An example of a trigger here we've got is Azure Queues, and this is what could start our flow. And finally, we've got actions. So what's an action? It executes a piece of code on demand. Sounds serverless to me. It's stateless. It's got a single function, and each connector has one or many triggers and one or many actions. It may not have triggers, it may not have actions, but it's going to have something. And here's an example of some actions that we can do with a queue. We can get a message, we can put a message on a queue, we could create a new one. So that's our whirlwind tour of what on earth is Power Automate and why is it serverless. Next, let's have a look at how we can create instant power with our pre-built connectors. So for the purposes of this demo, I've kept things in Excel. Now, I do not agree that Excel is a good database to use. I agree that it's completely overused. But for the purpose of the demo, it's simple, everyone knows it, and we can focus on the cool stuff that Power Automate can do. So my question to myself was, what can we do with tweets in a spreadsheet? And there's no better way to see it than to see it to believe it. So we're going to look at how we can capture tweets in Excel, put them in a queue to Azure. We can use Azure to then enrich tweet data using cognitive services or anything else you possibly could want. We're going to look at how we can send a daily summary of maybe some negative tweets to someone who wants to monitor them. And we're also going to look at how we can trigger on demand to send details about a specific tweet from an email to an email. So let's have a look at the first part of the flow, which is how we're going to get tweets from the world of Twitter into the spreadsheet as a connector. We've got a pre-built connector, which literally you say when someone posts about hashtag Power Platform for this example, I'm going to set up a few variables just because it helps us to walk through. So I'm going to run you through one of the successful flows, and we can kind of walk and see the examples of what data is coming through. So we can look here and see that we've got Twitter handle come through, we've set up the URL to come through, we've got the text from the tweet, and we've also worked out, and these are just two for now, two blank variables. We're going to use these as placeholders. We're going to format the date because we want to give the date to the user in a useful user-readable format because you can see it comes in with a system format. And there's a few things we're going to do here. So we're going to check if it's a retweet, and based on that, we're going to set the tweet text. So if it's a retweet, we use the original text, and if it's a normal tweet, we use the tweet text. There's a few things that come through differently. Another example of what we can do here is we can use Bing Maps, which is a pre-built connector again, and we can generate the longitude and latitude for the location of the person's profile. I've used this in other demos for plotting things on a map. And this is just another example of a pre-built connector. You could code this, absolutely, but if someone's built you a connector and you just give it a string, why not? Okay, so we're going to get the location, if there is a location, and we can generate the longitude and latitude. And then for simplification, we're going to take all that data and shove it in a spreadsheet. Okay, so you can see everything's come through here. We've got the tweet text, the tweeter, we set the URL. We've also taken the system date and the tweet ID that we're going to use later on. That's useful for sending backwards and forwards between Azure queues and everything else that we're using. So finally, we're going to stick a message on a queue and say, here's some information. Go and do something with it. Here's my longitude, latitude, my tweet. Go do something cool with it, right? So then what? Let's look at how it comes out. So if we look in our spreadsheet, we'll see that they come out just as we've asked. This is full of tweets which have come through. We've got everything that we pushed through. And you'll see also that I've got a sentiment rating. But where has that come from? Well, you know, we threw some stuff out of the queue. So we can also get stuff back from that queue. So let's look at the next step. Our next step in the flow is about how we can retrieve from the queue. So we've sent things out. Let's get them back with the queue to Excel. So this is our second flow. So the first flow you'll see was triggered when a tweet's posted. That's an automated one. This is another automated flow, so it's going to be triggered from. Let's dig down into a successful run. So this is going to trigger when a message is put on a queue. So we're going to send it off to Azure. In my eyes, as someone who doesn't code, that's a magical black box. You can do whatever you want with it over there. But there's so much we can do. I've kept a really simple example for this one, which is around sentiment analysis. So we're going to analyze the sentiment and just say whether it's normal, is negative, neutral, or positive. And we're going to send it back. But you could do absolutely anything. You could ingest that data. You could build a web app. You can do anything with it. So I have done more complicated demos, and we did one at the Powerful Devs conference where we set up an Azure web app and did all sorts. But your imagination can do whatever it wants over there. I'm just opening your eyes to it here. So you can see here that we can get the message from a queue. We're going to pass the JSON that it throws us because we know what the schema is. So I'm going to pass this JSON and look at what it's giving to me. And then we're going to pass the message, to create it into JSON. And then we're going to pass the JSON to work out what to do with it. We actually also did some stuff around getting the key phrases. So in the cognitive services, we extracted the key phrases. I've not done anything with them here with spreadsheet, but again, I'll post a link to the blog where we speak about this a bit more, and there's a full demo of how we've used that as well. And then we're just going to write back to the spreadsheet. So this is where we're going to use our tweet ID that I wrote in. We're going to write back our sentiment rating and the scores for each one. And you can see here that we've successfully updated it and got our positive sentiment rating back. Awesome. Final thing we're going to do, we're going to delete the message from the queue because you don't want it to keep coming back. Okay, so now we look at the spreadsheet and we can understand. The tweets come from the first flow, automated from Twitter. The next one's coming every time we post a message to that queue after doing our processing in Azure Cognitive Services. And here we can see we've got our scores and our sentiment ratings. Cool. All right. What's next? So how about we want to send a daily update. So this is where we want to bring in the scheduled flow. So we can set up a daily update to be sent out, which summarizes the negative tweets. So you don't want to look at all of them. Positive's great, my company's doing great. But what about the negative ones? Like if I need to monitor them, maybe as a marketer, I want to monitor that and I want to know about the negative ones. Like that's the stuff I really care about. The other stuff's nice to have. Other people can do stuff with that. All good. So let's have a look at this flow. And I just want to show you how this one got built, because although it looks really simple, there is elements of code where you need it. For example, I've talked about JSON, parsing messages. You do need a certain element of code abilities. So let's have a look at this one. So I set up the recurrence and I say I want it to happen once a day. You can get way more advanced with this, have start times, time zones, durations, hours, etc. So I've said once a day at 9 a.m. I think that is, so it's GMT time in the thing. I want it to go and get all the rows in my table in my spreadsheet, so it goes and grabs all those. It's going to work out the date yesterday, so you can calculate the day yesterday. So this is where we're going to say anything that's been negative in the last 24 hours, so we don't send the whole thing. And then we're going to filter an array. And here we've got our query that says if the sentiment rating is negative and if the date is in the last day. Anything that's successful in there can then be shoved in a HTML table. So here we're just going to take the tweeter, and the URL. We're not going to take the whole thing because we know it's negative. We know it's a tweet, all good. And then really simple example of what we can do here, but we can just stick it in an email. So I've kept this really simple. I've not thought you can also add formatting to the HTML table. You can do all sorts, but just for the purpose of seeing what you can do in this beautiful serverless, but also not so code person friendly way, each one of these things, so each block here is what we call an action. So sorry, this is my trigger, but each one of these is my action. So each of these is a little chunk of code that runs off in the background. But yeah, you could have written it yourself to say, go and find this spreadsheet on this SharePoint site, pull it down and give me the tables. Or you could just drop the action in. But we can see where there is also space to need to go and code and send things out to Azure. So let's have a look at the email that came through. Again, disclaimer, I did not format the HTML. So you can see here one that was sent out this morning at 8 a.m. I can see there's 2 negative tweets and someone apparently this was negative. Again, I can sometimes question the Azure monitoring. Cognitive services. We can see here, and also we've had someone retweet it. And just to clarify, this is not a fraud. We can also go and look in the tweets record and have a look and see. I wonder if I sort them. I can't filter in this. But let's have a look. All the other ones are neutral and positive. And we've got a mix, so that's sometimes when it's got no idea. And here's our negative one, which we just saw there. We've got this coming through as negative. Interestingly, yeah, it's only just negative. So there's an example of how we could schedule a flow. The last thing we can do, so we've got automated, which are based on a certain trigger, so someone posting a tweet. We've got scheduled, such as this, but we've also got where we can manually trigger them. So when I press a button or when I do something. So I could just have a flow button, but I could also, there's a really cool one we've got here, which is actually where you can trigger it from a spreadsheet. So what I've also done is, so say perhaps this tweet's really cool and I want to share it with some people in my company. I can actually call a flow, which runs based on the row that I've selected in the spreadsheet. So this is kind of the press a button type flow. And the trigger is on a selected row, I want to run my flow. So you can see the flow we've got available. I'm going to play this one and it's going to ask me who do you want to send it to. And so I'm just going to look for myself. And we're going to run that flow. So what's going to happen here is, it's very simple, but it gives you an idea of what you could do. You could rip that from that spreadsheet and do whatever you want with it. Like, you're open to all the connections and all the actions for each connection that's available. All I've done is popped it in an email and sent it to my email. Just to clarify that has come through. We will also open up the emails. And here we have an email. Check out this tweet from blah, blah, blah. Here's my tweet. Here's the URL. Click it if you want to open it. And you're away. So that's just a really cool little summary of what Flow can do, but from many angles. So that's really great. It's all completely serverless. Let's stop editing my flow. So let me go back to the slides. Oops, hello. So we had a look at how we've captured tweets, we've enriched them, we've sent a daily summary, and we've sent details of specific tweets by email. All completely serverless, but then I am focusing on using those pre-built connectors. Like I said, there's over 300, so you've got quite a lot to play with already. But what if you want to do stuff with a connector that's not pre-built? Don't worry. Do not worry. So let's have a look at how we can add a little bit more power by building what's called a custom connector. I hope you like the little builder guys that I've built in around here as well. So obviously we're talking about building now, so you know. So what is a custom connector? It's basically a wrapper around a REST API. And what's great about this is that as a developer, if you are one, this allows you to share your awesome developer power in a way that people like myself, or even like power users, so we call them business users, what do you call them, thingy developers, citizen developers, can use that in a flow. So it behaves exactly like a pre-built connector. It has triggers, it has actions. I can drag, select, and drop them in. So it allows you to do the awesome work in the background, again, that thicker front ends, but also at a deeper level, right? But you're letting someone else use it and be more powerful with the work that you've done. And it's not just binned off as, oh, only a developer can do that. It's bringing the teams together. So there's 4 stages we need to go through to create a custom connector. So if you're going from scratch, you obviously need to build the API. There's 2 options. You can have a public API or a private API. Public, something like Spotify, Slack, or an API you manage perhaps. So for example, an Azure function, a web app, an API app. You could use all of those and create a connector for those. Or we can have a private one. And for that, we can use what's called an on-premise data gateway, which allows you to connect with anything on-premise and do whatever you need to do. So what's next? Next, we need to secure the API. And again, super flexible. There's 4 methods you can possibly use. They recommend Azure Active Directory, but you can do generic OAuth 2, basic authentication, or an API key. So you're pretty much covering all possible bases. Next, we're going to describe the API, and this is basically where we say, hey, Power Automate, I've got this awesome API. This is how you use it, and this defines what's available to the users to use as triggers and actions. And again, we can go from scratch. You can use Open API definition, formerly known as Swagger, or Postman collection. Again, covering all the bases really. And then finally, we can use it, share it, and certify it. So use exactly the same as we'd use a pre-built connector, straight in the Power Automate, adding it as an action, adding it as a trigger. So that's your own. You can also share this connector with other users in your organization. You can also share it with other users of Power Automate, and this is where you certify it. This is where you submit it to Microsoft, they certify it, they verify it, and then they'll add it to the 300 plus list of pre-built connectors, and the rest of the world can use it as well. Not bad, eh? So I've got a couple of minutes left, and I kind of want to show you, I've shown you kind of a flow run, but let's have a look at what it looks like in the background. So this is a pretty bit, but even when you're building the flows, there's levels you can go to. If you just want to use really simple actions, that's cool. But if you also want to, how can I say this, get codey and technical, it's right there for you. So for example, building this from the queue to Excel. It's pretty simple for this one. But again, you've got to understand JSON or have someone that can help you to understand it and provide you the samples that you need. Because you've got to tell Power Automate what you're going to expect to come out the other end. Again, parsing the JSON, you need to have that coding background, understanding, or someone who knows what they're doing. But again, when you get to things like deleting the message, it's just been given to me as an attribute. So I literally just select the attributes. I don't have to write any code in here. It's pretty jazzy. And when we look at making the HTML table, things do get a little bit more complicated. No, they don't. Yeah, they're not too bad. Things are good. And tweets to Excel to queue. And again, we're passing the message to the queue. This is where we need that involvement. So the involvement from the developer, the guidance to say, this is what I need you to send me. This is the format you need to send me in. And again, go away and do amazing things in Azure. It's pre-built. You keep it loosely coupled. You've got one to send, one to receive. And it's that perfect, beautiful serverless computing model. And with that, I'm going to wrap up and ask people if they have any questions at this stage. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope this has helped some people to understand how Power Automate fits into the serverless party, and that it's not just about getting rid of developers. It's absolutely not. It's about empowering developers to work with the new wave of citizen developers, and also just be more lazy. So you can use the pre-built connectors rather than write your own, which gives you more time, more availability to write even more awesome stuff of the things that aren't pre-built. I have got some really handy links. Peter Sabarsky is the one whose definition of serverless I've used in the context of Power Automate, and also some links to the blog that I mentioned, and also things around custom connectors and the pre-built connectors. And I will hand over now for any questions. Thanks so much.